Coming up next on the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
La Ventana, that's not a lodge, that's a little town. There's some great rooster fishing there. Down about an hour and a half closer to Cabo, there's Los Barrilos. You know, both those towns, you kind of ride around on ATVs. I mean, you don't really rent a car. You know, you take a van service to, you know, your hotel or your lodge or wherever you're going, and you rent an ATV, and that's how you get around. You know, it's just it's a lot of fun. The food is spectacular. It's so good.
That was Jeff Brady taking us into his last rooster fishing trip, the Reaper X, the M Series, and Baja, Mexico, today on The Swing.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how you doing today? Thanks for stopping by the show. You can check out the schooloffishing.co right now and find out where we're heading next on our next trip. Our next giveaway, we're putting all the travel information over there, schooloffishing.co. Before we get started, let's hear from our sponsor. Waters West Fly Fishing Outfitters is your go-to resource for swung fly techniques, two-handed casting, and anadromous fish. Find out why Waters West has built a cult-like following around their fly time materials and why they are the go-to resource for the OP and beyond. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/waterswest right now to check in with Ed and Kyle and get all geared up to get on the water. Today's episode is sponsored by Dalton at Country Financial, who thrives on helping families and community members through the power of education and proper insurance coverage. The unexpected will happen, so it's always best to make sure your assets in life are protected. You can check out Dalton right now at wetflyswing.com/country and make sure you are protected today. Jeff Brady is here to share his Mystic Outdoor story and how he found himself building fly rods, why Mystic switched from the Midwest to Colorado and back to the Midwest, and we get a little update on his recent outings in fly fishing, skiing, and all of his outdoor activities. Plus, we hear about their ladies' rod lineup of fly rods. Here we go, Jeff Brady from mysticoutdoors.com. How you doing, Jeff?
Doing great, Dave. Can't be thrilled enough to be on with you today. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. I'm excited to dig into this because it's been a little while. I think we chatted. I always go back to the show season, and it's been a little while. I remember it was at the end of one of the shows. Maybe it was IFTD a couple of years ago, and you were back in one of the booths, and I kind of just checked in with you really quick, and that was probably 2 years ago. So I'm glad to finally get here to talk to you in a full conversation.
Yeah, it's good to be here, and you're right. We've crossed paths at a number of shows, and certainly it was probably IFTD where we connected the first time. So it's good to be back, and show season's kind of winding down. So now it's time to get to business.
That's right. How was show season?
Show season was good for us. We took a little bit different approach this year. We didn't attend quite as many shows. We were funneling some investments in some different places, product, stocking of product, and some marketing efforts and some different things that we wanted to try this year. And so we backed off the show season a little bit this year. Certainly we were in Denver. We're a Colorado company, so that's our backyard. So I had a really, really strong show there. I know right now the Wasatch show is going on. It's Friday, April 14th, and I think it starts today. That's always a good show. I'm bummed we couldn't do it. Logistically, we just couldn't make it work, but wish those guys the best of luck. But a little bit different show season for us. We'll probably ramp it back up next year. And it was a good season with regards to that. And we try to show up at local events, and there's a small Trout Fest event that TU puts on here in Colorado that they hold I think it's in July, so we'll be there. But yeah, shows are a pricey investment for sure. But man, they're so much fun, to see everybody and see your friends and talk a little business with people and meet people like you.
Exactly. And what does that cost, just for somebody, because there's probably some people listening out that are curious about that, like on the cost. What does it cost to do, just to pay for a booth at a typical show?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the show. I mean, the range is going to be, anywhere from $800 to $2,000 for a 10 by 10 booth.
Yeah, 10 by 10.
Yeah, which is the majority of the booths there are 10 by 10. Certainly you'll see some of the larger companies, the Sims of the world, the Fish Bonds of the world.
With a bus or something, right? They bring in some huge...
With a bus or with a keg of beer,
right?
Whatever.
That's right. How do you compete with that, Jeff? You're sitting there.
You join them.
Yeah, you join them, exactly.
You go over there and have a beer with them. That's what you do. But and then there's travel costs and logistics and shipping costs and all those things. So it's it's a major investment, but at the end of the day, I mean, typically there's a return that you look for, and we've been fortunate enough in the shows that we participate in and have participated in that they've been a good return for us. So
nice. So and one of the event you mentioned local events. One of the things we did recently that got us going here was we did it was a big giveaway. Had a bunch of great brands on. You gave away a rod, and this was for the Stillwater School, which I know, Phil Roy, and he's leading, our thing here. And it's pretty cool because, Stillwater, right? It's just another topic. Is that something, is Stillwater a category, something you're thinking a lot about? Or because I know variety is a big part of what you guys do.
It is, and that's a great question. I was literally on the phone yesterday with one of our reps. I've got a couple reps across the U.S. We're rebuilding kind of our relationships in our independent fly shops, which are the lifeblood of our industry, of course. And we were talking about that, and he was asking for trout rods, and he's showing trout rods, and I said, one of the interesting things, again, I've said this before, it's Friday, April 14th, so we're into 4 months into the actual calendar year. There has definitely been an uptick in interest in Stillwater fly rods, for at least our fly rods. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? I mean, the growth that the industry felt during the COVID years, which I'm sure we'll talk about kind of the impact of COVID on our company and on our industry, just introduced a lot of new fly fishermen and women to the industry. And the amount of pressure that you see in rivers, particularly here in Colorado, Utah, in the West, certainly in the Northeast and Northwest as well, people are looking for a little more solitude, and Stillwater and lakes and reservoirs sort of provide that. And it's definitely a growing category, Dave. Mm-hmm. And, we feel, I don't want to get into sales mode, but, we've got a segment of rods in our M series line. They're 10'3", and we make those in a 3 through 8 weight. And the 5 and 6 weights for Stillwater, that's what they were designed to do. And you mentioned Phil Rowley as well. Phil has been a really good friend of the business for a long time, and he's obviously fishes Mystic rods. That's his weapon of choice, is that M series 10'3", 5 and 6 weight, depending upon where he's fishing. So that giveaway was a lot of fun, but to your point, I've certainly noticed that segment or niche, or however you want to categorize that, is seems poised to grow.
Yeah, definitely that is. And Phil's doing a good job out there promoting it, and he's obviously doing the show circuit as well. It's that guy. What's amazing about Phil? You probably know this, right? Because you see about the shows, but he's one of those guys that I'm not sure how old he is. I think he's probably in his 60s. But I mean, he is just one of those guys that, he's like Michael Jordan. He doesn't even have to sleep, and he can still go out there and score 50 in a playoff game, right? And drink some beers and all that stuff.
Oh man, we if I'll be honest with you. Other than seeing potential customers and seeing friends and people when we do or we don't do shows, I always miss Phil the most when I don't do those shows. But we do find ways to connect throughout the year. We spend a lot of time together in Denver at the Denver Fly Fishing Show. Certainly always want to try and buy that guy dinner and listen to his Canadian, stories in his Canadian accent. And, he's a hell of a fisherman as well. And he's a good, just a good ambassador for fly fishing in general, and specifically obviously Stillwater. He does a really good job with that. And the giveaway you mentioned earlier, Dave,
Yeah.
I mean, that was a lot of fun. That was generated some buzz and some excitement. There were a lot of really good companies that participated in that. And, I can't believe one guy won that whole package, but he was really stoked when I talked to him.
Oh, he was. Yeah, you talked to him. Awesome.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm like, man, you bet run out and buy a lottery ticket, right?
I know. It is pretty cool. I think I think there's lots of giveaways out there, and that's great. I think we try to make this thing try to get, the kind of the biggest of the big, right? It's a trip. It's all this amazing gear. And then, and we have fun with it too. We do a little live event. We gave away a few bonus products on the live event. We always do that at the end when we announce it. Yep. So we not only gave away the big prize back, but I think we gave away 4 other products to other people that were on the live event. So
I watched that event.
Oh, you did? Cool.
I was one of the ones in the audience. You bet. You did a great job. Yep.
There you go. Yeah, we kind of pack it into 30 minutes to just kind of give it one last, value at the end and have fun with it. So good. Well, I think this is awesome. I mean, we'll probably have a Phil story at the end, maybe if we have time.
Oh, yeah.
But let's circle back real quick because I love to hear the intro story, from you. Yeah. You've got this rod company, right? I mean, this is pretty cool, right? You've been doing this a while. Let's talk about first on fly fishing. How'd you get into fly fishing? Then we'll take it into Mystic.
So I'll give you, Dave, the most abbreviated story that I can on this. It's like everything in life. It's kind of a windy road, right? So I was born and raised in the Dallas, Texas area, and went to college there. Always had a burr in my saddle to be a ski bum. That was kind of what I wanted to do. I had just gotten out of a botany test. I mean, how exciting does that sound? A botany test.
Oh man, I actually hated botany. I had.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was a life-changing test for me. I had no idea it was coming. I missed class more than I went. I sat down in class because I made a commitment to myself. All right, I'm going to take this serious and I'm going to do well. My first day back in class, there's a botany test.
Oh.
And as you can imagine, that didn't go well. So, I left class, tail between my legs, and I'm standing on campus talking to some friends. And one of my other friends walked up and I said, just kind of out of the blue, I said, let's go be ski bums. I'm like, I just failed a botany test. They're probably going to kick me back out of school. And, grades weren't my thing. I was kind of the social chairman of our group. And the craziest thing was 48 hours later, we had my 1987 4Runner packed up, ready to go, and we were heading west.
Oh, wow.
And we went out, we had jobs. We went to Red River, New Mexico, kind of a fun fishing area, if you think about it, but we were going out there to ski. So we spent a season skiing and enjoyed it and lived it up and had no money, $15 to our name after taxes and paying rent. And it was just a great experience. And we both realized that when the snow started melting, man, we better go back and kind of get our lives back on track. So we tried to do that, went back. I ended up going to a different school, hated it, absolutely hated it. And, I decided I'm going to move to Colorado. This is 1993, so this is a long time ago. I decided I'm going to move to Colorado. I'm going to chase the big boy ski dream, Aspen Extreme type stuff, minus, all that craziness. So got in that same 1987 4Runner, had $700 to my name, drive up here with no job, no place to live, and ultimately got up here too late. Got up here too late to find a job, to find a place to live. Well, luckily I had a guy that I went to high school with that said, man, you can just stay on my couch till you figure it out. So kind of fast forward over the years, I figured it out, got serious, ended up getting married, have 2 wonderful kids. They're both college graduates now. Spent a lifetime in software sales and all that stuff. So I spent a lot of time skiing, but was introduced to fly fishing, in the 90s, and really picked it up, the solitude of it, standing in a river, the flow, the puzzle that you have to put together to, actually put one in the net. it just was, there were so many wonderful things about it that, I really got into that as kind of my summer activity, skiing in the winter, fly fishing in the summer. And, it just kind of evolved. And I mentioned I was in software sales for a long, long time. And, I always felt like my exit plan from corporate America would be to buy or start or own an outdoor company. I spent a lot of time looking around. Was anything for sale? Was it something that I was interested in? And I got up to signing a contract to buy a ski shop here in Summit County, which is where I live. I live in Summit County now. And we couldn't work the terms out. So I backed off. And, I thought, oh crap, that was my chance. And what am I going to do now? And, I continue to work. So I'll wrap this up.
This is great. No, keep going.
Found just on some obscure website, I couldn't even tell you what it was. I saw this listing for a business, fly fishing business, manufacturer of fly rods. Click here if interested. That was it. Like that was the total ad for the business, and I clicked it certainly and sent in an I'm interested request. And a couple of days later, I'm talking to the owner of Mystic Outdoors, and the owner that I bought it from, I ended up obviously buying the business. This was back in 2019. Was the second owner. I'm the third owner of Mystic, and the founder, Dennis Klein, which I'll get into his story as well if you're interested in hearing that. He and I are still pretty close. I mean, we talk about once a quarter or at least a couple times a year, just get his opinion and his input. I mean, he built a really, really wonderful brand. And so long story short, there's a long-winded story, but yeah. It's a windy road how people get to where they are. And I've owned it since October 1st of 2019 was our first day of business, as me being the owner. And then, everyone knows what happened, 6 months later in 2020. So,
that was it. Yeah. So you buy it the year before COVID starts.
Well, 6 months.
Oh, 6 months before, not even a year.
6 months. And, it was an interesting time. So, Mystic has been around since 2005, Dave. Like we've been around a long time. We're not a fly-by-night company, and all of our rods that we have in our lineup, from our premium entry-level rod, which is called the Inception, all the way up to, our trimmer saltwater line, was designed by Dennis Klein, every single rod. And, there's actually engineering, if you will, in our entry-level rod. It's not a broomstick, and we're super proud of that. It's actually got a flex pattern, associated with it. So, I love our lineup. We kind of talked about this before we came on air. For being a smaller company, we really fill a lot of need across the different fishing styles. Whether you're in the Northeast or Northwest needing two-handed rods, whether you're climbing up a mountain trying to find a mountain lake here in Colorado with a shorter rod. Certainly we have trout rods covered, saltwater rods if you want to fish, in Baja, Mexico. We can cover you there to chase rooster. And we're super proud of that. We already talked about, kind of our Stillwater line, which is that M Series 10'3".
That was going to be one of my questions on just the line, since you have this variety of different types. What would be one thing, you aren't doing maybe that you would like to be doing, or are you pretty much doing it all?
Yeah. I mean, certainly there's always room for improvement, right? I mean, we're not trying to be some of the other rod companies. I mean, they're really good at what they do. We feel like what we're good at doing is, our swath of our price points from 109 to 570 and everything in between, provides a pretty good variety for the largest swath of fly fishermen and women out there, right? Nobody, I don't want to say nobody, lots of people do, but it's a different angler that buys in that $1,000 plus range, and they exist, and it happens. And those are great rods, great companies, Sage, Scott, which is another great Colorado company here, Thomas & Thomas, and there are certainly others. We kind of fit in a little bit of a different category, particularly from a pricing standpoint. but we're really proud of the engineering and the design of our rods. We think they're unique enough that, if you do a cast off, or if, there's, if you did a blind cast test, remember the old, blind taste test with Coke and Pepsi. Well, if you do a blind casting test with our Reaper X, which is our rod under the $300 category, we think you're going to like that rod quite a bit. And we feel like we've built a lot of value in that rod. And we've also built a lot of value in our $499 and up rods, which,
I love that.
Those are the rods that we still hand wrap in Michigan.
That's really cool. So and I want to dig more into that in the Michigan, talk a little about that. That is an interesting idea, though, like from a marketing perspective, the blind taste test. I mean, it's been done before, right? Whoever the original Coca-Cola or whatever. But that'd be a pretty cool marketing thing to do, right? Like, here you go, blindfold, give them the rod, and then give them the $2,000 or whatever, $1,500 rod, and then you tell me, what's the difference, right? That'd be a fun event to do.
Maybe we'll try it. I don't know. Maybe we'll try it this summer and kind of see how it goes. I mean, we want to be creative. We want to be, the best Mystic can be, right? Like, that's our goal. We don't necessarily have revenue goals. We don't necessarily we're going to overtake XYZ rod company. We just want to be the best that we can be and treat our customers right and hope that they come back and buy that other rod that they need. That's sort of the strategy. It's pretty cut and dry.
Today's episode is sponsored by Chota Outdoor, legendary comfort and equipment you can trust. Chota insists on the finest material and craftsmanship to assure you have the highest standards of quality. You'll feel in control of the elements in your Chota gear. Every product is solidly backed with a no-nonsense warranty against defects. And I have a family connection to Chota over the years. Back in the shop, the old shop, my dad carried Chota, and he wore those proudly with confidence. And now I'm carrying on that tradition, supporting Chota. And I'm very excited about the new products coming out this year and working with Chota in 2023. I'm pretty rough in my gear and find myself putting a lot of miles on that gear and being pretty rough on it. So it's good to know that the Chota gear is durable, is bomber, and I don't have to worry about it. And even on those long trips, and if you have a blowout, it's not going to be a good situation. So I'm excited to keep digging into this year. Clean, comfortable, charismatic, and ready for any situation you can throw at it. You can head over right now to Chota Outdoor at wetflyswing.com/Chota. That's CHOTA to support this podcast and a great family company right now. Okay, now back to the show. And the Reaper X is great because it's got a good name. The Reaper. Why did you guys go from, you had the Reaper and then you go with the Reaper X? Why the Reaper X, and then why not also keep the Reaper as well?
Yeah. So we refreshed the original Reaper line, and I'm hoping some of your listeners are familiar with the original Mystic Reaper. I mean, it was a fantastic rod, and just between you and me, I still have a few in our warehouse in Denver of certain sizes. So I'll take them out on the river. But we ended up refreshing that in late 2018, 2019. Flex pattern blank is the same. So what we did was we improved the cork. We put quad grade cork on there. We improved the reel seat, and we improved the wire guides and the stripping guides a little bit. So we upgraded the rod a little bit with some newer, componentry and a little bit more upgraded cork. We wanted the cork to last a little bit longer. So we use quad grade cork, and it's a little bit smaller. If you grip a 9-foot 5-weight Mystic Reaper and you grip a 9-foot 5-weight Mystic Reaper X, you'll notice just a little bit of a smaller cork profile on the Reaper X than the Reaper. And the blank color is a little bit different. It's a mahogany colored blank for the Reaper X versus a beautiful sage colored blank for the Mystic Reaper originally.
Is it essentially the same action rod?
It's the same action. Yeah, it's the same action. Just upgraded components and upgraded cork. Yep.
Okay, good.
Exactly right.
That's it. And you mentioned Dennis Klein. Do you know Dennis's story, like when he first started the company, how that all happened?
I do. Dennis, the story is like many, many other rod manufacturers and how they got started. He was a custom rod builder, and he wasn't commercialized. He just had custom rods, and he did a lot of regional shows in Michigan and Ohio and and around the Midwest. And, people really took to his rods and his rod designs. They really liked it and said, Dennis, you should go into business. You should commercialize your business. And, eventually he did. And that was around 2005. Dennis, previous to, kind of the rod industry, was a civil, he was a civil engineer basically, and worked for the government overseas. Built really good relationships in South Korea and knows all of those guys over in South Korea. There's 2 factories in South Korea that supply all the blanks or the finished products for South Korean fly fishing products. There's two factories. We use both of them. He came back and he sent over, all of his designs. Like I mentioned earlier, he designed every rod in our lineup. We're proud of that. We didn't, even on our entry-level rod, like I mentioned this earlier, our Inception rod has engineering in it and design, and you can feel actually the flex pattern. It's designed for someone that doesn't know how to cast to kind of feel the load and understand, oh, okay, I see. I'm supposed to let the rod do the work, and the rod kind of present the fly, not horse it forward. And it's all about speed. It's about the design of the rod. And he built a pretty strong business. He was located in Michigan, Portland, Michigan, to be specific, which is just east for your geography majors. It's just east of Lansing. Cute little town. I've been up there a couple times myself. Dennis got tired and wanted to retire from the business. He had been on the road. He'd done the show circuit, which we talked about earlier as well. And it'll wear you out, right? I mean, it wears you out, and there's benefits to it, but there's obviously kind of outcomes, and his body was getting tired, so he decided to retire, and he sold the business to a gentleman who moved operations to Denver, and this was in 2017. So that's how we ended up moving our warehouse and operations to Denver. Was this gentleman purchased the business from Dennis and moved operations to Denver. And, this person came from a different industry and tried to apply some of the principles that he had success with in the other industry. And, unfortunately it didn't pan out the way that he had hoped, which opened up an opportunity for me to come in and buy the business in 2019. We attempted at one point, and this was the previous owner that bought the business from Dennis, tried to move rod manufacturing here to Colorado. And, we tested, he tested, lots of different rod builders and brought in lots of different custom rod builders. And custom rod builders aren't the right profile for a commercial rod builder because they like to tinker toy. They like to change things up. They like to move things around. And for us in a commercial rod manufacturing business, rod 100 has to look just like rod number 1, right? They have to be consistent. And that's customer experience. That's, warranty purposes. I mean, there's all these reasons why that's the case. So we moved rod manufacturing back up to Michigan. And
you did?
Wow. We did. So any of our M series rods, our Sable, our ladies rod, which is called the Sapphyre, one of the few companies that has an actual ladies specific rod, our two-handed rods, our switch rods, our salt rods, those are all still hand wrapped in Michigan by the same rod builders that Dennis taught how to build rods, and they are really, really, really good at it. And it's a mother and a daughter that do that for us, and they have for the last 12 years or so, maybe even a little bit longer.
So these are custom. So these are the difference here is that you've got the rods coming out of South Korea, which, like you said, there's a lot of great companies that utilize, that country, right? Those resources. But then you also have the blanks that you would send to these custom. So for more of the, whatever you call them, boutique sort of rod, or, more, or what would you call it? What is the difference between the rod that gets wrapped by hand in Michigan versus say something coming overseas?
Yeah. So I have two rods in our lineup that are finished for us and sent to me, landed finished, and that's the Inception Rod. And that rod retails, Dave, for $109 or $119, depending upon the weight. For us to hit that price, there's really only one place we can go to maintain that price point, and that's out of China. So we utilize our relationships with our friends in China, manufacturers in China to manufacture that Inception Rod. We also combine it into a kit. So we'll sell you the Inception Rod with an aluminum metal reel, line, backing, and a case. And we get those finished and sent to us landed from our friends in China. The Reaper X, we moved that manufacturing to South Korea. There are some efficiencies. It's our widest lineup, 7'3" weight all the way up to 10'8", and pretty much everything in between. So from an efficiency standpoint and a cost standpoint, we do that one finished out of South Korea. The rest of our rods in our lineup, we get those blanks manufactured to our specifications and sent to Michigan, where they hand wrap those rods there.
That's cool. So you have a little mix. And the ladies' rod, that is interesting because, I haven't heard of that before. I'm sure there's some stuff out there, but what is was the ladies' rod, was that one of your projects, or was that there before you got into the business?
Yeah, so Dennis designed that one and did extensive testing with female fly fishermen up in Michigan. As a matter of fact, I met one of the testers of the Sapphyre Rod at the Denver show this year. And she stopped by and we talked for a long time and caught up about that. But that was, that was a rod that Dennis inserted in the lineup, previous to me owning it. And like I said, it's called the Sapphyre. It's a medium fast action rod with probably a little bit more emphasis on fast. The cork is a little bit smaller for smaller hands. And then of course kind of the details. It's sort of a bluish blank with some purple wrap and some purple threading on it. And I'll tell you and your listeners, to be honest with you, half the people that own that rod are guys.
Oh, really?
It's a wonderful rod. It's a really, really good rod. And the flex pattern is kind of unique in our lineup. I mean, it's similar to a Reaper X flex pattern, but probably a little bit faster. But I wouldn't call it a true fast action. And of course, your listeners are smart enough to know that when a rod manufacturer says medium fast, it's really a relative term to their rod lineup, right? It's kind of in my lineup. It's like going to ski at Keystone in a black here versus going to ski at Loveland in a black there. They're just a little bit different, they're just a little bit different. But, for us, it's a medium fast with an emphasis on fast. And, it's a wonderful rod that we market towards the female fly fishermen that are made by a mother and a daughter, right? It's a couple ladies that wrap it for us. So we're proud of that rod, and we think it's a unique rod in our lineup, and we really like that rod too.
That's it. And casting it, right? You mentioned it. So one of the only ways to get a feel probably is to cast the rod and test it out, get a feel for it. How do you do that? Like the test drive, right? How do you get new customers potentially that haven't tried your stuff to get a feel for it without, like with all the online stuff? I'm assuming you're doing a lot of sales online and everything.
We do. We do a mix. I mean, we're diversified in that way. And that kind of leads into let's revisit kind of the COVID conversation for a second and kind of how that impacted, our business and certainly it impacted, the industry as a whole. I mean, fly shops, I was just incredibly impressed with the creativity that fly shops across the country came up with to stay afloat, right? I mean, it was just super, super impressive. But kind of rewinding back to when I bought the business in 2019, and I mentioned, there were some things that the owner that I bought it from applied to the business that kind of hurt our relationship in fly shops. And, it was almost a complete rebuild to reestablish relationships in fly shops. And we had kind of converted at that point to really relying on online sales as our only, source of revenue because, fly shops had, quite frankly, kicked us out for some business practices that were done before I bought it. So my strategy in 2020 was let's get out to shows, let's get busy with, get the brand back out there, talk about kind of some of our plans to re-enter the fly shop market. Dave, I was in Omaha, Nebraska in March of 2020, and I was doing my day job. I'd been working my day job all day, doing presentations and in front of customers, hadn't really paid attention to the news, was flying out that afternoon to Michigan to do the Midwest Fly Fishing Expo, which is a wonderful show. By the way, if your listeners are in the Michigan area, you know it very well. So I'm sitting in the airport. I call my wife and I say, honey, just checking in. I'm getting ready to hop on this flight. I'm flying up to Michigan. Everything's good. And she goes, have you been paying attention to the news today? I said, no, I haven't. I've been busy and, I just haven't had an opportunity to see what's going on. She goes, you're not going to Michigan. The whole world is shutting down and we've fallen off the end of the earth. And, oh my gosh, this pandemic has hit and it's crazy. And I'm like, oh, I hear you. I said, I'm pretty sure the show's still going on. I'll call you when I land. Everything's fine. So I'm sitting there for a couple minutes and I'm like, well, she's the smart one in the family. So I might want to follow up and just check. So sure enough, I did. And they said 4 hours ago, we canceled the show. Don't come out here.
Right.
So I'm sitting there about to board a plane to Detroit, Michigan to drive over to drive up to the show. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what has happened? Like, what in the world is happening? My whole world just changed. I can't go to Michigan. I'm sitting there, having logistically, how do I get back home? I've already checked the bag. So anyway, long story short, I divert back to Denver. And again, this is March, third week of March, whenever all this kind of happened. And I'm sweating bullets going, oh my gosh, what does this mean for my business, right? Like, what am I going to do?
Show season was a big part of your thing, right?
It was. And, particularly in 2020 and, the opportunity to go out and start to visit fly shops, introduce myself as the new owner, kind of tell them the strategy and start to rebuild those relationships. That was my strategy in 2020. Well, punt that, right? Like I had to punt on that idea because, fly shops weren't accepting, customers. Obviously they were closed down. There were local laws about, interaction, and all those things were going on. So interestingly enough, in 2020, fly fishing as an industry grew.
Yep.
And it grew because, again, just by nature, fly fishing is social distancing to a degree, right? It was an outdoor activity. People wanted to get outside. They didn't necessarily have to be sitting right next to someone, like if you're on a chairlift at a ski resort. So by nature, it was kind of fitting. It kind of fit into COVID and all the things that went along with COVID, but still allowed you to get outside. And ironically, the market grew in 2020. So we survived 2020. Moving into 2021, things kind of started to loosen up. Not really, but a little bit. Started to have more conversations with fly shops and started to kind of rebuild that relationship. And that's an ongoing thing for us, right?
That's a goal, to get out into more fly shops is what you want to keep doing.
I do. And right now I tell your listeners, if we're not in your local fly shop, ask for us, right? Like it's, ask for, have you heard of Mystic? Would you carry Mystic? I'd like to bring one in and kind of cast this rod. Otherwise, I mean, we're pretty liberal with regards to if someone orders a rod online, sight unseen, and they don't like it, the flex isn't what they thought, we 100% will take that back as long as it's unused, right? Like you can't go out and fish it for 5 days and go, no, I'm going to send that back. But certainly you could take it and cast it in your yard or, feel the flex pattern, do the
Yep.
Do the wiggle,
do the wiggle, do the rod,
the infamous wiggle,
the rod shake.
Yeah, the rod shake.
Today's episode is sponsored by Togens Fly Shop. Togens Fly Shop provides superior quality products at a great price. They have also a great YouTube channel that you can check out right now with new fly tying tutorials each week. Togens also has you covered if you're looking for unique in-house products, and they also support many of the great brands out there that you know and trust. It's been fun connecting with Justin and the family over the years now, and it's been really cool. A great local fly shop. Togens is also offering their fly tying box, where they send out materials at a regular cadence where you don't even have to think of it. You just open the mailbox and there's your Togens pack. And I recently made an order through Togens, and the experience is always perfect. They've got you covered if you ever have questions or need any help, whether that's a YouTube tutorial or connecting with them personally. Since 2005, Togens has been over-delivering on customer service, and it's time for you to check out Togens Buzz for yourself. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/Togens right now to check out their diverse selection of products today. You support this podcast by clicking through that link to Togens online. That's Togens, Togens. Okay, back to the show. What is your pitch? Give me your, if I'm a fly shop owner, and I was never a fly shop owner. My dad had a little tiny fly shop back in the day. If you came into the shop and you were, kind of doing the pitch to the shop, what's that sound like?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that I would focus on, and we've talked about a lot of them, right? For a small company, when we have a pretty wide variety of rods, for the different styles of fishing, so we can fit a lot of different styles of fishing. I think our price points are pretty attractive. I was reading new fly fishing news this morning, and if every owner of any business in any industry is paying close attention to inflation. They're paying close attention to the value of the dollar. I mean, all these macroeconomic things that you pay attention to. It's going to be an interesting year as far as how many people in part with their money for fly fishing or any other industry for that matter. So I think we've got a pretty good lineup of fly rods. At a pretty good price point. I think that's number one. I think number two, we're not a fly-by-night company. Most people have at least heard of Mystic. We've been around since 2005. We're not going anywhere. If you want an entry-level rod, we can supply that. If you want a USA wrapped rod made in the USA, granted, again, our blanks come from South Korea, but we do wrap them in the U.S., we can do that at a pretty attractive price point as well. Stillwater, if you have a Stillwater growing category, we can fill that with the wonderful rod. We're backed up by Rowley. And then again, we're pretty liberal with regards to our warranty as well. We certainly, the wording is manufacturer defects. That happens less than 3 to 4% of the time, Dave, to be honest with you. Yep. Most of the time it's somebody shutting it in a car door or running over it with their ATV or stepping on it in their boat. We get it. That stuff happens, and we want to keep that rod in your hand and keep you in the water.
And that is warranty? Is that what happens if somebody snaps it in a car door?
We have taken care of that scenario 100% of the time.
Yeah. There you go. That's pretty good.
We have. Those
are pretty good bullets. I think you touched on a lot of the things that people are I think worried about, especially when it comes to maybe a new company, right? That they're going to be in and out, and then if something happens, they're not covered, right? So that's not the case. That's good to hear. So what is yours for you? You're in Colorado. I'm assuming you're a trout angler, but is there something that you're really like? Your home waters, your species, something you're really fired up that when you go out fishing.
I love to trout fish. Obviously, we've got the Eagle, the Colorado, the Arkansas. Countless rivers, frying pans, not too far from me. I can be on gold medal waters in an hour or less from where I'm located. So, spend a lot of time doing that. Stillwater is something that I'm starting to introduce into my routine a little bit. I will tell you this. So, last May, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do it this year, but last May, a friend of mine went down a couple of friends of mine and I went down to Baja, Mexico, and we fished, we chased roosterfish. And I can tell you and your listeners, if you haven't done that and experienced that, I would highly recommend trying that. And you know, it's you're chasing rooster, you're chasing amberjack. You know, I caught an amberjack on a fly. That was incredibly exciting. But if you haven't had that experience down in Baja, Mexico, I highly recommend that you do that. That's a lot of fun.
What does the roosterfish look when you get out there? What is the thing that really is, you know, exciting, gets you fired up for the roosterfish? What's cool about that?
So there's a couple ways to do it, right? Like you can certainly try to catch them from the shore. You probably need about a 10 weight, a really stiff action rod, and that, you know, that's where we used my trimmer, saltwater 9'3" 10 weight rod. Out on the boat, you need something a little bit bigger because they're bigger out there, right? So I've got this special run of a cousin of the original Reaper that I built out. It's a 9'12" weight that we used. And the exciting part is, you know, these guides know what they're doing. You know, these guides that you go out with on these pangas know exactly, and they'll stop. I mean, you got to be ready to go, Jack. Like, you got to be, you know, cocked and loaded and ready to throw your fly. And the feeding frenzy that happens when you hit a pack or patch or whatever you want to call them, school of roosterfish is exhilarating. Like, it's incredible. I mean, you see their combs on, you know, kind of, if you've ever seen a roosterfish, they have these combs on their back, right?
The dorsal fin, or it's not yeah.
And so you see the combs kind of flying through the water, and you know, you throw your fly, you throw your fly out there, and you're you know, it's basically big time streamer fishing, right? And you're you know, pulling your fly in as fast as you can, and you can't do it fast enough because they'll chase it, but they're smart enough to know 30 feet they'll turn. They don't come within 30 feet of a boat. They know better. So it's just an exciting experience. There's a lot of good, you know, there's a lot of good lodges down there. There's a lot of good guides down there that we've had an opportunity to go fish with. So anyway, that's a lot of fun. So I look forward to doing that. I love the saltwater fish as well.
What would be, is there the lodge that you went to, or is there a part of Baja that you went to that people could check out?
Yeah. So La Ventana, that's not a lodge, that's a little town. There's some great rooster fishing there. Down about an hour and a half closer to Cabo, there's Los Barrilos. And that's a lot of fun too. You know, both those towns, you kind of ride around on ATVs. I mean, you don't really rent a car. You know, you take a van service to, you know, your hotel or your lodge or wherever you're going, and you rent an ATV, and that's how you get around. You know, it's just it's a lot of fun. The food is spectacular. It's so good.
Did you guys get some rooster? Did you hook into some?
We did. We did, and you know, for your listeners, if you check out our Instagram page or our social media, you'll see a picture or two from last year for a rooster and some amberjack that I caught on the fly as well. And it's a good experience. And you know what? I mean, Dave, we talked earlier about the trip to Northern Lights that we did. That's going to be a badass trip too, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be a lot of fun. And Pyramid Lake is another one on my bucket list. I've never done it, but I've got some friends over there that, you know, I was supposed to go out with Phil after the Denver Fly Fishing Show and go fish with some friends on Pyramid Lake. I couldn't work it out, but he went out and had a great time and caught some 20-pound trout.
Crazy. And we actually, the cool thing is that we have an episode. Phil is actually doing, he's kind of hosting a series on the podcast here, and he's like our Stillwater guy. So he interviewed one of the guys out there that he fished with. So somebody could take a look right now if they want to dig into that and figure out who that was, because I think Nico was his name.
Nico Sinceri, he's a good friend of mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You know Nico. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I know him real well. He's a good fly fisherman, but he's a better guy. He's just a good guy.
That's just kind of cool. This is almost like a selfish thing for me. Obviously, I want to bring on the best. I'm doing this new series, right? These hosted where I'm not hosting the show. But for me, it's exciting because now, I can like, oh God, I get to listen to this. It's like on, and so it's kind of fun. And Phil, like we said, is the man. Yeah, on the roosters, I'm just curious on that. Did you talk to those guys? Like, why is the dorsal fin this comb as opposed to like most fish have kind of a solid dorsal? Any idea on that?
We didn't get into the genetics of it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's probably something looking back, Dave, that I probably should have done a little bit more research and asked more questions. Your adrenaline gets going so much that you kind of forget who you are for a minute.
Right. You're not worried about the body morphology of a roosterfish when you're trying to like hold on for dear life, right?
Yeah, and let me tell you, man. I mean, and this is probably true with most salt species. They're fighters, right? Like with trout fishing, the larger trout are certainly going to fight. They're going to take you for a ride. They're going to run. They're going to try and get rid of you. But man, those salt fish, they it's just a unique experience. And again, it doesn't just have to be roosterfish or mahi or amberjack, like I've mentioned. I mean, it can be tarpon. It can be any number of drums. I mean, any number of saltwater options to fly fish. But I mean, I'm a trout fisherman. That's what we do here in Colorado, and but I like to get out and try and do different things as best as I can when I have time. And the interesting thing, and you probably know this too, probably fish less now that I'm in the business than when I did before.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, the business takes up so much time, and you're always trying to help other people enjoy their fly fishing experience that you kind of give up so a few hours on the water, but I get out from time to time. I was out this past weekend, Easter weekend, on the Arkansas here in Colorado. It's a gold medal water, and man, they do a really good job with that river, making it super accessible. There's bathrooms at different locations, and it's really, really built out, really nice all the way down the river. And it's a really long river. I can't remember how many miles it is, but driving wise, you can drive, I don't know, 3.5 hours and find fishable water all the way along. So that's a good river to fish as well.
Right on. And I just kind of saw here, and this makes sense, the roosterfish, just to wrap that up. Yeah, I think it's kind of like the sexual dimorphism or something like that, right? Where it puts them out to, basically when a bigger predator comes, it like shares, shows its spines, its 8 dorsal spines, right? That's kind of what it's about. Or, there's probably some other stuff. That sounds
right.
Yeah, maybe there's some mating and stuff like that. But this is good. No, I love going down that road because I think, travel, Baja, I mean, there's all these places, and I love getting a little feel for what it looks like, so we can be like, okay, yeah, this is something that we can definitely do. Is that Baja trip, was that pretty easy to put together?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we sort of strung it together rather than going to a destination lodge. We did it a little bit differently, and it worked out. I mean, I've got a really good guide friend here in Colorado that goes back and forth and knows the lay of the land, and he really kind of helped us with bookings and arranging things and, getting us on the right boats with the right guides. And we do a lot of trout fishing together here and had an opportunity to do some rooster fishing down there. But, there's some great, I'm just hesitant to kind of name.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Get other ones.
Yeah. No worries. We can figure that out. I think we can Google Baja fly fishing, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of, good resources that pop up there.
There are a few wonderful lodges down there, and again, not to prolong the Baja trip too much. The people are so nice. They really want to take care of you and want you to have a good time. I kind of said this a minute ago. The food is just spectacular. Like, it's insane how good. Like, it's kind of like walking by a food truck and eating a food truck, going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how good that is."
Yeah,
it's the same thing down there, right? You'll go to this kind of hole in the wall place, and it'll be one of the better meals that you have in a long time. But a lot of fun.
What was your meal? Give us a meal. What's your, if you had to pick one, what down there, what was the one? Was it just tacos? Is it just straight up tacos or what?
So we ate at the same restaurant 3 times, and when we got picked up by our van service and we were driving up to La Ventana, we stopped at this place to eat on the way. And we were probably, I don't know, an hour south of La Ventana. We stopped and we ate, and we were like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. So then we go up to La Ventana and we go up there. When we come back through, we eat there again. We stop and ate there again. So then we fish for a little while, and we're at the hotel. We clean up, we ride our ATVs, and we go there for a 3rd time. And it's tacos, salsa, chips, that kind of stuff. And,
it's all good.
Good margaritas.
Oh, right, margaritas. There you go.
Just a lot of fun. The wait staff was, just super entertaining and welcoming, and just had a good time.
Awesome. Well, I want to take it out of here in a bit with our our rapid fire round here, but just tell me on the raw and everything you have going. Anything you want to give a shout out to what you have going that we haven't touched on? You think people should know about with Mystic?
Yeah, I want to highlight the Stillwater rods that we talked about, the M Series 10-foot 3. We've built some of those out, going into the season. Our sales on those, like I mentioned, the category seems to be growing. Another rod line that we haven't had, that we've reintroduced, if you will, is our switch rods. So that's kind of an entry-level 2-handed rod, 11-foot 3. Think trout spay, you can call it a switch or a trout spay, or there's any number of things that people call it. 11-foot 3, 4-weight, 5-weight, 7 and 8-weight. So we've reintroduced that into our lineup. And just look for us around, man. I mean, give us a call, email sales at Mystic Outdoors if you have any questions. Our website, www.mysticoutdoors.com. And, we're just here, man. We love our customers. We love to talk fly fishing, and, give us a shout if we can ever help you out.
That's right. And if somebody calls or emails that, is there a good chance that you're going to be responding to that email? They can talk directly to you?
A lot of times, yeah. A lot of times, exactly right. I certainly have some help in our warehouse and shipping and, and packaging and, that kind of thing. But I'm really, really involved in the business. I have to be. Yeah,
you are. Are you the type of person that, you're sitting there till midnight, responding to stuff and all that stuff? Because you hear these different stories about people. I mean, we've done all these interviews, and sometimes you'll talk to somebody who, it sounds like literally they don't sleep. They love it so much, they're just going, right?
Yeah, lucky enough to have good people that help me kind of manage my inbox, but anal retentive about my inbox. I hate to see my inbox with unread emails. I'm just kind of one of those guys. So I try to be incredibly responsive as fast as I can. And, I'm on the phone a lot. I'm talking to people a lot. I'm kind of away from my computer, fairly often. So I may not get back as fast as sometimes I want to. But yeah, certainly try to be incredibly responsive. And, if someone's going to give us an opportunity and give us a chance to earn their business, look, we want to provide them the best experience we can. And that's just kind of how we operate day to day.
Perfect. Well, let's jump in here. And I was calling this, tried to call this the 2-minute drill. I'm getting rid of that now because there's, we never made the deadline here, but I just have a few kind of random questions. And you're thinking, at the start you talked about this outdoor company, right? And so Mystic Outdoors kind of, right, still has that outdoor kind of thinking, right? And you talked about skiing, and what I was thinking as you were describing it, the ski bump, Dumb and Dumber was coming to my,
oh my gosh,
that movie, right? So I didn't want to miss the opportunity to throw a Dumb and Dumber clip into the show notes. So we'll
got to throw a reference.
Yeah, we'll get that in there. But talk about that, let's just start with the movie. Give us the movie. Are you a big movie buff? Are you into all that stuff, or do you even have time to watch movies, stuff like that? Or would you have a favorite?
I do. I try to. I'll tell you just a quick, interesting story. My wife and I went and saw Cocaine Bear a couple weeks ago, and I didn't know what to expect, and I just really wanted to get out of the house because it was a really, really cold day. So there wasn't any fishing or skiing happening that day. So we went and saw Cocaine Bear. I went just to eat popcorn, just full disclosure. I wanted to eat popcorn, and you put butter on it.
In the movie theater.
Yeah, get my greasy fingers. It actually was a little bit better than I thought it was going to be.
So I'm not, and for me, I'm totally out of the loop. I am on the extreme end where I just pretty much don't do anything but fish and all this stuff. But Cocaine Bear, if I had to guess what that movie's about, I have no idea. It's not about a bear that runs into some cocaine, I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, sort of.
It is. Yeah, don't ruin it. What's the gist of the movie?
So these drug runners crash land a plane, and all this cocaine lands in a Georgia forest, and this bear gets into cocaine and it becomes addicted, and all the calamity that goes along with it. And the interesting thing is parts of the story are true. The whole plane crash and the cocaine flying into the forest in Georgia, that's all true. But they kind of wrapped around the bear part, to make it kind of it's a comedy. I can't believe, Dave, you and I are sitting here reviewing Cocaine Bear, the movie, but
I know. That's what makes this amazing, right? This is
yeah, it's hilarious. But I don't get to the movie theater very often. The movie I saw before Cocaine Bear was Top Gun Maverick, and that's a fantastic movie.
Oh, really? So which one's better, Cocaine Bear or Top Gun Maverick?
Oh, Top Gun Maverick by 1,000.
Oh, no kidding. So Tom Cruise, I'm guessing that guy. That's the one thing about Tom Cruise. Whether you like him or hate him, that guy's got some skills.
He does, and my wife and I, if we are ever watching a movie and Tom Cruise is in it and he's running.
Yeah, he runs like a fast runner. It's like, what's the word for it?
His arms swing like it's insane how I don't know. It's just kind of, we always crack up when Tom Cruise is running for any reason.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. He's got this weird run where it's like he's almost working too harder than he should.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but you're right. I'm not a huge Tom Cruise fan, but man, that Top Gun Maverick, that is a wonderful movie. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there you go. I didn't realize that. So good. Well, I'm loving this. This maybe is our new segment, the movie review segment.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, let's see what else we have here. I think we've covered kind of it all today. I feel like we got a good feel for what you have going. If you just look out, do you guys have plans in the future to go into something else, right? As far as the rods, are you pretty much on track right here with what you have to keep you going? It sounds like you got a lot going on.
Yeah, there's always that potential, right? There's always that potential. And we try to pay attention to kind of market forces and drivers and trends. And, I told our friends, I think I was talking to Fly Fusion Magazine last year. And I said, look, we really like our rod lineup. For being like I said, a smaller company, we feel like we fit a pretty wide variety of fishing styles with our current lineup. But, you kind of pointed it out, Dave. The name of the company is Mystic Outdoors. Our fly rods are Mystic Fly Rods, but it's Mystic Outdoors. So there's always an opportunity to introduce, new products coming down the road. I don't know if 2023 will be the year that we do that, just because, again, there's just too many macroeconomic things that we've got our eyes on that could impact us, one way or another. But certainly there's conversations around, expanding, into other fly fishing products possibly, or spinning up something, in the snow. I just don't know at this point.
That sounds from our conversation at the start, right? I can see, and you're in the place. You're Mystic Outdoors, you know what I mean? Like, is it fly rod or is it actually going to be some snow sports, right? Do you still, and that's something you still are out there on the slopes?
I'll ski either later today and or tomorrow for sure. It's closing weekend for us. So I'll get out there tomorrow for sure and have fun. And then I'm traveling a little bit next week. And when I get back, I'll kind of, shift my mind to full fly fishing. But, I've done a fair amount this winter. I've probably fished more this winter than I have in a number of winters. And it's been pretty cold. But you know, there's tailwaters here in Colorado, so it doesn't freeze up, so I can go fish, you know, any afternoon as long as I can handle the weather.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it gets cold, but yeah, I mean, you know, our core business is and always will be fly rods. And you know, our focus will remain on that. But if there's opportunities to add value to our clientele and to our customers, we'll explore that.
Exactly. Cool, Jeff. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there, and we'll send everybody out to mysticoutdoors.com if they have questions or if they want to connect with some of your rod line and everything. And yeah, man, appreciate all the time today. This has been a lot of fun. You know, great to finally catch up with you, you know, after talking about it for a while, and excited to follow, you know, the journey and keep in touch with you.
Yeah, man, appreciate what you do for our industry, Dave, and thanks for having us on. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
There you go. wetflyswing.com/458. 458. You can check out, get some show notes. I'm sure this one is going to have some nice movies, some movie trailers or some intros, maybe a full movie over there if we can swing it. Check it out right now. If you get a chance, would love if you can share this episode or a past episode of this podcast. This is how we've been growing this show over the years and our way to connect and help future or current fly anglers. Quick listener shout out before we get out of here. Zach Oskinski. And I'm not sure if I'm even close to pronouncing that right, but Zach checked in and said, Dave, he said, "Hey Dave, love the podcast. The fly fishing Frenchman gave me some great ideas on the Euro. I am located in New Jersey and love trout. Wild browns are my favorite." If you want to get a shout out in this episode, just like Zach, you can check in with me anytime, Dave@wetflyswing.com, or on social media. Let me know you've been listening, and I would love to hear from you, especially if you're brand new or haven't checked in a while. Okay, we're going to be heading all over the map here, and I'm not going to dig in deep to where we're going. I'll surprise you on that, but I do want to let you know and say I hope I can connect with you on the river, on the water, or online if you get a chance. And I hope you're having a great afternoon, a great evening, or a great morning wherever you are in the world, and I appreciate you for checking in today to the show.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.